afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get our meeting started. It is 5 o'clock on Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. We'll go ahead and call our regular board meeting to order. I want to say welcome to all of my board colleagues, to Dr. Campbell, who's joining us up front at the dais this afternoon, Dr. Stubblefield, who's joining us on Zoom, and to all of our staff. Thank you for joining us today. To all of our guests that are with us, staff, families, students, and friends, thank you for joining us this afternoon as well. We're excited to have you, and we'll get to learn more about that here in a minute. Again, just want to say welcome, good afternoon, thanks for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting today. And as we do at every board meeting, we'll read our board norms and protocols. We agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, and to continually self-check to determine if we're following our norms when conducting district business. Again, welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us, whether you're here in person or if you're joining us and watching online. Thank you for being with us today. With that, I would ask Ms. Smith to do a roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark. Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie Humphreys, present.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Brownlee Page, present.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, present.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, present.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Smith. Would now entertain a motion, board. I'm going to ask if we can amend the agenda and add an executive session, so that would be a third executive session on the agenda, same on personnel. So would entertain a motion to add an executive session on personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Would now entertain a motion to approve today's amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will continue with our agenda, and our first agenda item is a very special one. As we do it at very many board meetings, we get to celebrate our students and staff, and today is a very special celebration. As we know, it is Educator and Teacher Appreciation Week, and we have a ton of educators in the room today, and coming up to the microphone is Dr. Sutherland, who will share a little bit about why we have so many special guests here, and as she's making her way, I'm just trying to buy time, but I just want to say thank you to all of our educators for all the amazing and great things that you do. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Sutherland. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, President Lopez, Dr. Campbell, Kansas City, Kansas Public School board members, and all who serve Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. I need to say it again. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am honored to be here today, and today we have so many people with us because we have our 2024 nominees for the Kansas Teacher of the Year to celebrate them, as well as our 2025 Kansas Teachers of the Year. This year, we also have a support staff. Each building will be recognizing a Teacher of the Year and a Support Staff of the Year. So I am honored once again to introduce these wonderful educators to you. First, it will be our 2024 nominees for the Teacher of the Year. Banneker Elementary, Adam Kelney. Claude Hike, Christy Winger. Eugene Ware Elementary, Kendall McNeil. Frank Rushton, Sydney Newland, John F. Kennedy, Cecilia Marino, New Chelsea Elementary, Manya Brown, Silver City Elementary, Cindy Moore, Edison Elementary, Michelle McKeskey, Wellborn Elementary, Hannah Masterakis, Westport Elementary, Jordan Phipps, Sligo High School, Leanne Richardson, Wyandotte High, Austin Bruss. And so now, those were our nominees. We'll have our 2025 Teacher of the Year for the school, as well as our support staff of the school. For Kansas City, Kansas Early Childhood Center, we have Keely McVeigh. Rochelle for the support staff, Lucio. For Morris Early Childhood, we have Tamika Williams. For support staff, we have Erica Salazar. For North Central Office Early Childhood Center, for Teacher of the Year, we have Justine Prowse. For support staff of the year, we have Amber Block. Banneker's Elementary Teacher of the Year, we have Manuela Rizzo. For support staff of the year, we have Vicky Piggy. For Carruthers Early Childhood, for Teacher of the Year, we have Leanne Thomas. For support staff of the year, we have Anna Loza. For LaCard Hike Elementary, for Teacher of the Year, we have Christina Faber. For support staff, we have Catherine Durbin. For Douglas Elementary, for Teacher of the Year, we have Chelsea Lincoln. Support staff of the year, Catherine Kinnear Hill. Emerson Elementary, Teacher of the Year is Katie Cable. Support staff of the year is Alma Tostado. Eugene Ware Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Maggie Bender. Support staff of the year, Kendra Bittner. Francis Willard Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Caitlin Slunk. Support staff of the year, Gail Quates. Frank Rushton for Teacher of the Year, Sydney Newland. Support staff of the year, we have Yara Avalis. For Grant Elementary, for Teacher of the Year, Christine Carville. Support staff of the year, Rachel Pollock. Hazel Grove Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Debbie McNeil. Support staff of the year, Monica Lindsay. John F. Kennedy, Teacher of the Year, Hannah Ferguson. Support staff of the year, Helen McField. John Fisk, Teacher of the Year, Kaylee Reed. Support staff of the year, Denise Vaughn. Lindbergh Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Katrina Johnson. Support staff of the year, Christy Ramirez. Laura Bruni, Teacher of the Year, Crystal Mason. Support Staff of the Year, Ashley Carr. Mark Twain Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Leslie Stewart. Support Staff of the Year, Audrey Bush. McKinley Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Brett Scarborough. Support Staff of the Year, Ritz Rivera. Emily Pearson Early Childhood, Support Staff of the Year, Susan Croft. New Chelsea Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Jillian Mateer. Support Staff of the Year, Deidre Cersei. Nova Prentice Elementary, Alyssa McQuitty. Support Staff of the Year, Meredith McMahon. Queen Darrow Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Amelia Kovac. Support Staff of the Year, Crystal Rodriguez. Silver City, Teacher of the Year, Michelle Paver. Support Staff of the Year, Latrice Glenn. Stony Point North Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Jessica Kelly. Support Staff of the Year, Janelle Campbell. Stony Point South, Anna Bacon for Teacher of the Year. Support Staff of the Year, Claudia Rosario. All right, I need you all to continue. We have a few more. I need those claps to get a little louder. T.A. Edison, Early Childhood Center and Elementary. Teacher of the Year, Kelsey Lemnipke. Support Staff of the Year, Diana Bersagiaga. Wellborn Elementary, Hannah Mastaracas. Support Staff of the Year, Jill Calloway. West Park Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Jody Varastak. Support Staff, Margaret Calvert. Whittier Elementary, Teacher of the Year, Lizzie Lorraine. Support Staff of the Year, Anna Samenta. All right, Arrowhead Middle, Teacher of the Year, Adrian Benson. Support Staff of the Year, Rufus Parker. Carl B. Bruce, Teacher of the Year, Christopher Hilton. Central Middle, Teacher of the Year, Jacob Sweat. Support Staff of the Year, Daniel Garcia. Eisenhower Middle, Teacher of the Year, David Yance. Support Staff of the Year, Lisa Tabor. Gloria Willis, Teacher of the Year, Amy Guy. Support Staff of the Year, Vanessa Abra. Rosedale Middle, Teacher of the Year, Julie Day. Support Staff of the Year, Jacob Roca. Alfred Fairfax Learning Center, Teacher of the Year, Nicholas Onofrio. Support Staff of the Year, Katie O'Hegan. Camber Owl Academy, Teacher of the Year, Brandy George. FL Sago High School, Teacher of the Year, Dewana Dunn. Support Staff of the Year, Dave Cavender. J.C. Harmon High, Teacher of the Year, Margie Moraris. Support Staff of the Year, Kamisha White. Juvenile Services Center, Teacher of the Year, Support Staff of the Year, Martin Cervantes. Sumner Academy, Teacher of the Year, Megan Smith. Teacher Support Staff of the Year, Shirley's Wesson. All right, Washington High School Teacher of the Year, Tyler Cisco. And Support Staff of the Year, Gail Collins. And last but not least, Wyandotte High School Teacher of the Year, Shalane Deacon. And Support Staff of the Year, Donnie Clark. Please join me again in giving a round of applause. I congratulate each one of these Teacher of the Year nominees. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Sutherland, and thank you to all of our educators, support staff, teachers, for all of your work, commitment, dedication, passion. We truly can't do what we do as a district without you. So just thank you, Dr. Sutherland, for sharing that energy with us today, and thank you to all of our staff that joined us. If any board members have any remarks they'd like to share before we move forward, Ms. Page, please.
Mr. Lopez, again, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but someone has said it's also Nurses Appreciation Week, and we don't want our nurses to think that we don't appreciate them because they've had a difficult job. All of us have, but theirs has really been difficult these last 3 to 4 years. So we want to applaud them as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Page. Absolutely. All of our nurses and healthcare workers, we couldn't have done it without you through these last few years. So thank you for that reminder, Ms. Page. We appreciate that. All right. We will continue with the celebrations today, and I'll invite Ms. Tammy Romstad to the podium as we celebrate our winter sports athletes, student athletes. Ms. Romstad, good afternoon.
All righty. Good evening, President Lopez, members of the board. Tonight, I would like to recognize our winter sport athletes who have received all-state honors. Many of them are supported tonight by parents, principals, athletic directors, and coaches. We do have some athletes that are not here tonight because guess what? There's soccer, baseball, swim, and everything else going on. But everybody could be here is here tonight. We're going to start off with basketball. The Acacia covered boys basketball all-class team, senior Junior Hicks from Sumner, honorable mention 5A. Junior Javion Williams from Washington, honorable mention 5A. Acacia cover girls basketball all class. Junior Mylea Brown Sumner, honorable mention 5A. Senior Dejanay Brown from Schlegel, honorable mention 5A. Deja's here tonight with her mother, Carrie Brown, and grandmother, Esther Young. Wrestling, boys wrestling, 5A and 6A state tournament. Some of them aren't here, but I'm going to go ahead and recognize them. I don't know how to move this screen. Can somebody move the screen for the names? There we go. One more. Sophomore, Samir Moore, Sumner. Sophomore, Miles Dean, Sumner. Junior, Devon Washington, Sumner. He's joined tonight by his mother, Ramiko Meeks, and head coach, Brad Oxler. Sophomore, Gennaro Jamilio, Washington. Head coach, Aaron McGee. Sophomore, Carlos Gallardo, J.C. Harmon. Had to work tonight. Senior, Raymond Ladd from Harmon, also had to work tonight. Girls wrestling. I did this as a freshman with her, and now I'm doing it as a sophomore. Kamani Jackson from J.C. Harmon, third place finish at the state tournament, classes 4, 5, and 6. Senior Alyssa Harris from Sumner. Hold on, I'm gonna announce the other two. Junior Janace McGee from Sumner. Junior Valerie Chacon from Sumner. They could not be here tonight. Junior Brianna Neal from Washington. Freshman? No way. Had to check on that one. Freshman Emily Vasquez, F.L. Schlegel. Head coach Aaron McGee. And the last one, senior Monique Johnson from Wyandotte. You want to grab them or just let them? Okay. I also want to recognize, can we flip the slide? They couldn't be here tonight, but I want to recognize senior Braxton Burnell from Florida Schlegel for bowling in the 5A state tournament. He had a baseball game tonight. Sophomore Kamani Jackson, who you just met, was also the Keisha covered True Blue Athlete of the Week. And finally, a senior, Alyssa Harris, KBC Hy-Vee Scholar Athlete of the Week from Sumner. I just want to also recognize that we were going to recognize debate tonight, but they have another event they're celebrating. But we will bring them back, and we'll have all of our debate kids here for you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Ms. Romstad, for sharing. And congratulations to all of our student athletes, to your families, coaches, and to our staff. Okay, we will, it's hard to keep going after such excitement and celebration, right? We could end the meeting there, that'd be great. All right, but we won't. We'll keep going.
There is 4 of us here.
All right, so we'll continue on with our agenda. Again, just congratulations to everyone, and thank you for all of your dedication and compassion and commitment. Next up is our community comment section on our agenda. Agenda item number 3, just a reminder, everyone is welcome to come and give comment. You get 3 minutes at the podium. Please state your name, and then your time will start once you begin speaking. And please make sure you've checked in with our board clerk so that we make sure we have your contact information in case there's any follow-up that we do. We usually have a staff member who will follow up with you and have, if there are questions or any additional follow-ups. So today we have Ms. Susan Arp, who is making her way to the podium to speak with us. Good evening, Ms. Arp. And again, if you could just make sure you state your name, and your 3 minutes will start once you begin speaking. I will ask you to pause at 3 minutes, and you do have a timer up there in front of you, I believe, as well. Good evening and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. That's a hard act to follow. That was wonderful. My name is Susan Arp, and I beg your forgiveness. I have been practicing. I'm within 3 minutes and like 15 seconds, so I promise I will go as fast as I can. Good evening, everyone.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Oh, can you not hear me? Is this better?
Yep.
All right.
better.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for telling me. Good evening. My name is Susan Arp, and I am an early childhood special education teacher here in KCKPS. When I was hired in 2016, I had every intention of working here through retirement. Our early childhood program, though never having been perfect, I chose this district because the model of instruction, the support, the collaboration, the inclusivity of all students, and the ongoing guidance that was offered to educators really appealed to me as a new teacher. I had knowledgeable instructional SPED coaches to turn to with questions, a coordinator who followed the law, and there were clear processes in place that could be trusted and relied upon. Sadly, over the course of the past few years, our special education program seems to be unraveling at the seams. Significant program changes and decisions have been made with zero teacher input. Special classroom settings were restructured putting an end to inclusion in certain cases. Paraprofessionals were cut. Ongoing training to ensure the excellent writing of IEPs has all but ended. It often feels like we are screaming into a void, begging for help, only to be shamed or flat out ignored. I have literally been fighting to stay in this district for years. I love my students. I love these families, and I love this community at large. Yet those of us that are brave enough to speak up to ask the hard questions do not feel safe or secure in our jobs. For the past 2 years, I feel as if I have literally been walking around with a target on my back. I can make no mistakes. Indeed, one of the few mistakes that I did make this year, expressing frustration to the wrong person, resulted in an attempted reprimand that would go in my personnel file. Thankfully, I had documentation and a principal who put a stop to this utterly and completely unjust situation. I have no special education instructional coach. I have had no monthly team meetings in my building this year. I have had significant concerns regarding the law and whether the things I am told to do are in compliance. I have begged for my sales classroom to be staffed properly, and yes, I have taken trips to KU Med for work-related injuries. After the 37th incident, I stopped keeping tabs of emailed questions that were left either unanswered for over a week or outright ignored. It's been implied that I need to use better time management to teach full-time in one classroom while case managing a second. I'm at my 3 minutes, I'll be fast. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. The KU environmental study completed in 2022 made it abundantly clear that there were critical problems with our special education program and a significant lack of trust between teachers and that department's leadership. None of this is sustainable. None of this is in the best interest of children, families, or educators. It is with a heavy heart.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
If you wanted to finish that last statement,
I want to share it's with a heavy heart that I'm leaving the district this year. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll make sure to follow up. Thank you. We will continue with our agenda, and again, Ms. Smith, if we could please make sure we have her information, and we will make sure to follow up, and someone should be in contact with you this week. Thank you. We'll continue with our agenda today. Our next agenda item is our consent agenda. Motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes, but I do have a caveat that I would really like for us to parking lot a conversation around our MOU with KCKPS and KCKCC. I don't want to stop anything going into the next school year, but I would like to have an update on that partnership as well as information. And this doesn't come as a surprise because I asked for it last board meeting and I haven't seen any information around partnership work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Dr. Nguyen,
I have some concerns about, and I've expressed these, about the payables, whether or not there is a spin down going on. I also ask questions and I have concerns about what I believe, lack of clear policies of travel, and that there doesn't seem to be, to us, clear objectives and measurable outcomes of travel. And I also made comment of that, so I will vote no.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Motion carries. And Ms. Russell, I've noted that, so we'll, thank you. Dr. Nguyen, I've made notes as well. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is,
Did Ms. Page vote?
did Ms. Page, did they call your name? I'm sorry.
I didn't remember hearing it. I didn't know if
I thought she did.
I thought I did.
Yeah, she did. Yes, she did.
Okay,
I don't want to speak for her, but
I'll
I
ask.
thought I heard her.
yes. I did.
Thank you. Thanks for checking. Everyone's votes count. Next on our agenda, item number 5, our communications. We will hear from our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Anna Stubblefield, who is joining us via Zoom. Dr. Stubblefield, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good evening, everyone. I just have a few things to share. We had a lot of fun and exciting events to talk about across the school district this week. This week is National Teacher Appreciation Week and Nurses Appreciation Week. And I just want to say thank you to all of the educators and all of our nurses for the small, great things that you do with and for our students every day. And also congratulations to all of the teachers and support staff that were recognized this evening. Unfortunately, I was not there tonight to congratulate you in person. However, I look forward to congratulating and recognizing you, each of you again, in front of the entire school district at convocation this fall. I am in Washington, D.C. with my Kansas and Missouri Education Policy Leadership Team, meeting with our elected officials about addressing the teacher shortage and the SNAP benefits that are in jeopardy of being cut. Also, last Friday, we had the awesome opportunity to participate in Are You Faster Than a Fifth Grader? I really want to thank Kristen, the instructional coach for physical education, and our curriculum instructional team for hosting the event. This year, I was not faster than all of the fifth graders, but I was faster than most. And I look forward to next year as the fourth graders and our current fourth graders prepare for that event. I also want to thank all of the central office staff and board members who came out to support that event. I know our students and our community really enjoyed it. We had the great opportunity last week, along with the students from Frank Rushton Elementary School, to participate in the unveiling of a brand new Read, Learn, Play reading space at the Rosedale Ultra Wash. The Read, Play, Learn space provides a fun and safe area for young students to read their favorite books and learn about the world and explore their imagination. We're grateful to the partnerships with the Laundry Cares Foundation, Kansas City, Kansas Public Library, Lakeshore, Earth Breeze, and the owners of Ultra Wash Laundromat for opening up a second venue to promote literacy in our community. If you recall, we opened one last year at a laundromat off Quindaro. This is just a reminder that in collaboration with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, Kansas City, Kansas Public School is hosting an event to bring awareness to the dangers of fentanyl. The event will take place at Gloria Willis Middle School, located at 1735 North 64th Street, on Thursday, May 16th at 6:00 p.m. Please share the word and invite as many people. This is an important topic, and it's just the kickoff to many educational and prevention events that we will have in the future. This is also a reminder that kindergarten roundup has occurred, but we want to remind parents that our schools are open and staff is available to assist parents and families who have questions about enrolling their child into kindergarten in the fall. I also want to congratulate our students and teachers who participated in the Work-Based Learning Showcase last week. Students had their client-connected projects and business collaborations on display here at Central Office. The KCKPS Excel Showcase is a part of the Diploma Plus program's Work-Based Learning Opportunity. The program is offered throughout the school year to all of our secondary schools in the district. It also provides an opportunity for teachers development so they can get involved. So thank you to that team who put that together. And Mr. Lopez may be adding more information, but this is just a reminder to board members that we'll have our first budget meeting on Tuesday, May 16th. You should have received information. You'll get updated information about the board priorities that was established a few years ago that you voted on. And if you haven't received the survey, Regarding that, you will get an updated survey to identify your priorities for this year, as well as, I believe Ms. Smith put in a folder for you, all the building needs assessments and all the building departments, and any other information that we finalize before that meeting will be certain to get to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stubblefield. I'll just share a few remarks, most of which Dr. Stubblefield covered. But first I did, since Ms. Arp is still with us, I know our policy says it's why we do one-way communication where technically they only speak to the board, but from the human element, we are sad to see you go, and you are always part of our family. So anytime you want to come back, we'd love to have you back, but sad to see you go. But thank you for speaking your truth tonight to the board. The other comments I had today, just as a reminder, as Dr. Stubblefield shared, board, remember we do have a budget meeting next Tuesday, so hopefully everyone can participate and you have that on your calendar. I know Ms. Smith, thank you for sharing that as a calendar invite, so you should have that on your calendar. So please look forward to a very thoughtful discussion around our budget. As Dr. Stubblefield mentioned, you should have all of the documents in board docs. And via email, and a survey has gone out, but it sounds like an additional survey or an updated survey will go out. So hopefully you'll have a chance to complete that prior to the meeting so that we can have as much information prior to the meeting. And we do ask if there are questions as you're going through the documents, through the material. There's a lot to go through. But if there is anything specific that you want to point out, it might be helpful. If you can share that via email, similar to as we do for board meetings, share any questions that come up that are specific. That way we can try to get questions answered or information to us beforehand. But with all of that information, I anticipate that there will be a thoughtful conversation and questions will come up during the meeting. But if there is anything that you can share prior to help staff gather any information, that would be great. Again, thank you, Ms. Smith, for making sure all the building needs assessments are updated in board docs. If anyone has any issues getting any of the information, please let us know so that we want to make sure everyone has the full information for all of our budget meetings. So just reach out and let us know. There's a lots going on, as Dr. Stubblefield said, always lots going on in our district. I'm not going to go through it all. There's tons for you to find out and get involved in, and we've got graduations coming up later this month, and just a super exciting month for all of us as a district. I was at Wyandotte High School, I'll point that out, on Friday morning to celebrate that we had a Latin Grammy nominated international band making movies who performed for the students around some social emotional learning and talked about trauma and mental health and the importance of speaking up and using art as a way to work through some of that trauma. And I think it's a reminder for us of how important the arts are in our district and why we should be supporting, why we should continue to make sure that we're supporting that as best we can. I know several board members have lifted that up many different times, but it was just great to see the band there performing. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. But it was great to see the students interacting. We actually had 2 students who went on stage with them, and they created a song in the moment that then they got to perform on stage. So kudos to them. Thank you, Wyandotte, for hosting us, and thank you to Making Movies. So again, lots of great things happening, but I'll pause there, and I'll ask any other board members to share anything they might have. Ms. Drew?
Well, I just wanted to say that I did go to the ROTC Awards Program in Washington High School on April the 28th. And I was there, Are You Faster Than a Fifth Grader, on May 4th. And then today I was at the F.L. Schlegel Library, where they have an entrepreneurship event that took place. And students were presenting a plan for what they felt was beneficial to help us to address issues like mental health, increasing student engagement in the classes. And so it will continue on tomorrow. But it was a good way to be able to hear that the dynamics of learning has changed tremendously from back in the day when I was teaching, but they were very adamant about looking to find a solution to move forward in a positive way, not just for themselves, but for all students. And one suggestion was to have a special watch that would help them to be aware of how engaging they needed to be. So it was very beneficial to listen to their plans as far as how they can move forward in a very good, direct way, considering what's going on within our society. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Drew. Ms. Humphries.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up about the music and the arts because the last 2 weeks have been full of music programs. We had the All-City Elementary Choir performed last night. Parents were so excited to see their kids perform. You know, the kids are excited, but when you look at it and you look at the parents, the pride, and that's a group that meets once a week after school. So their parents have to get them to practice and pick them up. And they were wonderful. They performed at the KMEA, I think I got the initials right, convention this spring. So our kids are recognized across the state, and these are little bitty elementary kids. And then most of you know that we had 2 nights of music out at the community college, where our elementary strings festival was. This is something I've been going to for over 38 years, and it's still thrilling to see the parents and the community come out and support their kids, the learning that they've done this year. It's you don't want to miss it next year. The ROT Awards banquet, another thing, to see the parents be so proud of what their kids have accomplished this year. Tomorrow night, if you're free, there is a Harmon Cluster concert at 6 o'clock. If you want to see some of our elementary students, please come out to Harmon. And then today was the Kansas Kids Fitness Day for the 3rd graders in our district. Half of them were at Schlegel Stadium this morning. The other half will be at the Harmon Stadium Thursday morning. So if you want to come out and see some of our kids having a great time out with field games, come on out and do it, please. And with a lot of the different school visits I've made, but fine arts are so important to our kids. We need to make sure we don't lose track and only focus on math and reading, because our kids use all those same skills in playing an instrument, in singing, making art projects. So I just want to remind everybody, it's big, it's an exciting part of the year.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. Additional comments from board members?
Yeah, I will take a moment and I will ask that we all take a moment of silence for a student of ours at West Park, Mr. Sir, who lost his life due to senseless gun violence in our community. I know that we have said it time and time over and over again that enough is enough. And truly, I hope that if you know something, you will say something for his sake, for his family's sake, so that justice can be served. But if you all will entertain me in a moment of silence, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that today is National Fentanyl Awareness Day. It also provides an opportunity for us to remember the victims of fentanyl poisoning and educate the public about the deadly threat that fentanyl poses to the health and safety of our community and nation as a whole. This is also my invitation to join us next week, May 15th, somewhere in there, for a vital conversation around the deadly effects of fentanyl and how one pill kills. And so thank you to our police department, the KCKPD, and all those involved for planning this event. Stay tuned to our social media and websites for more information. I know there's some out there already, but just thought I would recognize that here today. On a more positive note, I also had the privilege of attending Are You Faster Than a Fifth Grader? I enjoyed being at the intersection of 72nd and Leavenworth Road. I think Chief will tell you I hollered my butt off. I paid for it the next day, but I truly enjoyed telling kids before I saw Dr. Stubblefield, "You're faster than the superintendent. You can do it. Keep going." And so that was really the highlight of my day. But also just seeing the central office staff out there running with the kids. I also took photos of them and was making fun of them because they have a lot more energy. While I was very energetic at the intersection, they ran the 2 miles, walked, whatever they needed to do to make sure our kids got past. And so it's always amazing to see the kids do it, but also to have our staff and staff from the schools participating. Of course, as it's been mentioned, I just also want to recognize our teachers and our amazing educational staff, support staff that are in our buildings every day. I've seen a lot of fun things that are happening throughout the buildings, from PTOs and PTAs and principals and all the fun things going on to celebrate all of our staff in our district. And so I just want you to know that I'm thankful and appreciative of you. Ms. Page mentioned, but I will also recognize, while it's Nurses Week, tomorrow is actually National School Nurse Day. And so thank you to our amazing nursing team under the direction of Miss Lewis. I thought I saw her, but now she's gone. But just want to say kudos. And then in closing, I just want to mention, as a parent of a senior, I just want to say congratulations to our class of 2023. This has been probably a really interesting roller coaster ride, from COVID to all of the things. And I want you to know, I know most of us will be attending most of the celebrations in the next week, but that this board is truly proud of you and all that you've accomplished. You started your high school career in a pandemic, and you have run with it and have successfully completed the task. And so on behalf of this board, just congratulations. Families, hang in there. I know the struggle is real, but we will get over that finish line. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Ms. Page, yes.
Yes. I had the unique privilege of attending Wyandottes Gala, and I want to thank Principal Mary Stewart, and a special shout out from Ms. Dinkins, who went beyond and above, because she had classes from 1960 up to 2022, as well as some former teachers were there. And we were also excited to hear Miguel Torres's band, along with another local band. They did a phenomenal job. Everyone had a great time, and they're looking forward to getting together next year for another big celebration. Because if you're a bulldog, you know once a bulldog, always a bulldog. So we had a great time. I also went to Quindaro Elementary School, and the kindergartners and we celebrated Cinco de Mayo. We read books about Cinco de Mayo. We created a taco in a bag. That was one of our meals. We made jewelry. We had cowboy hats and vets. We did the whole 9 yards. And I want to thank Principal Dez, the kindergarten staff, the beautiful young people. We had a great time, had a lot of fun, and some knew some things, but we were able to share with them the importance of being a cultural pluralist, to celebrate everybody's culture. And you don't have to be Hispanic to do it, because a couple little girls said, well, why are we doing it? So we kind of went over why and why it's so important, had a lot of fun, and also teacher negotiation. We're working on that. We met the previous week, we'll meet this week, and hopefully we can work together, and hopefully we can have that contract out before the year is out. And then on a sad note, and I had her name written down, and I couldn't find the right paper. Jill,
Jamie Craig?
No, we had an admin who was the first minority admin who was black to work for a superintendent. She passed away about a week and a half ago, and I can't recall her name, but we want to let her family know we appreciate her. Again, we've had a lot of people make some history here, and we want to give credit to those who are doing that. And kudos to our nurses, our teachers, and everybody, because we want to give everybody some love, some praise. This is not an easy job, and we have to come in every day and do what we can. And you always want to give your best, and I think we have a lot of people who are working hard, and there's always room for improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page.
Yeah, and I just also, when you were talking, I thought about Miss Jamie Craig, who is the teacher at Wyandotte High School that passed. And really the real telling of your impact in education, there were students that organized a balloon release at the school. And one might think a few students showed up, a crowd of students showed up. And so her legacy and the work that she did at Wyandotte High School it has impacted the lives of many of our students. And so I want to pay respects and condolences to her family as well.
And Mr. Lopez, her name was Leola Williams. She worked for Jill Shackelford. So I didn't know if anybody remembered her. We don't want them to go by and not pay tribute to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Page, for that reminder. Thank you, Ms. Russell, for sharing that as well. Additional comments from board members? Okay, seeing none. I do want to make sure that we get out the information that Ms. Russell shared regarding the fentanyl education evening, which I believe is May 16th. Is that right, Chief? Okay, May 16th in the evening at 5:30 at Gloria Willis? 6 o'clock at Gloria Willis. So thank you for that reminder, Ms. Russell. Definitely something we want to pay attention to and inform our students and parents. And yeah, thank you for all of those reminders. Lots going on within our district. So we'll continue with our agenda, and we are at item number 6 on our agenda. Board updates and approvals. Board, these items have come to us previously at least once and are up for potential action if it is the will of the board to do so. The first item, and we do have staff on hand to answer questions. I know questions have been asked previously and were submitted, but this is another opportunity for you to ask any questions or gather additional information. We have staff ready to do so. The first item, it's recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the MOU between KCKPS and the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department for the 911 call taker training program for the 23-24 school year as submitted by Dr. Danita Fernandez Flores, Dr. Judith Campbell, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So, oh, you want to make a motion? Sorry, go ahead.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I know Ms. Russell has a comment. I did have a comment just as a reminder for our staff per the previous board's conversation around, again, making sure that we are looking for opportunities and gathering student input and teacher input around what opportunities might be good. That was, I thought, a very thoughtful discussion last time. So thank you to staff for continuing to bring these opportunities forward. Ms. Russell, you had a comment?
Yeah, so my comment is more of a question, and I did not look at the questions before, and it actually just came to me from a constituent today. So, and if we could answer it publicly at some point, whether today or not, I think that would be appropriate. So through this partnership, are our students actually taking 911 calls, and are we making a good trauma-informed decision for students to be answering 911 calls? So that's my question. I don't know if someone has an answer.
Yeah.
We'll capture it and get back with you.
Okay.
Okay.
I would also like for that information to be shared because I think the constituent that provided that information to me, I think has the best interest of our students. And I think if we want to make sure we're making trauma-informed decisions, I don't know that putting students on the other end of a 911 call is appropriate. So.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Additional questions or comments? Or was there anyone who wanted to address that question? I see Dr. Fernandez Flores coming to the podium.
We don't expect our students to be fulfilling that role as they're not trained to do so. What they will be learning will be the basics of what it takes to be a 911 caller, as well as go through trainings for the certifications that would be required for such. So it'll be training that at the end would allow them to apply for employment and enter that space if that's what they would want to do.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Flores. Additional questions?
I will also note that on the bottom of the MOU, it says the UG Sheriff on number 5, and I think that is incorrect.
Where was that at again, Ms. Russell?
It's on the very bottom in the appendices section. Or this one has been updated. Okay.
Okay, thank you. If we could just make sure that that information is correct, that would be great. Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, hearing none. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes?
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, no.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next agenda item, B, it is recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the recommendation for department name change from ESOL and Migrant Programs to Multilingual Education Department as submitted by Ms. Jacqueline Rodriguez, Director of ESOL and Migrant Programs, and Dr. Jermaine Wilson, Executive Director of Student Services and Family Support, and Dr. Judith Campbell, and is recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll just add a quick comment. It was really great, again, to hear emphasis on the seal of biliteracy, and I think that is an opportunity that our students, as we have multiple languages spoken in our schools, that I think, and it sounded, definitely the board had some positive feedback on that, to continue to support our students as if they can get that seal of biliteracy, just how important it is for them to have that as they graduate, as they move on, a tremendous asset to have and a tremendous asset for our district. We definitely need to continue to cultivate and support our students in that area. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next agenda item, it's
Second.
moved and seconded. Are there questions or discussion?
Mr. Lopez, I have a question.
Yes, please, Ms.
So
Nguyen.
does
Dr.
this
Nguyen.
conclude our, is this the same company we contracted with?
Yeah, Dr. Nguyen, this is Dr. Stubblefield. Yes, it doesn't conclude our partnership. They do it annually. This year, there was no recommended actions. Sometime, depending on the patterns and those kind of things, it calls for the boundary committee to make additional recommendations. But this year, there was no significant things that came out of it, so no recommendations are coming forward. But we do have them to do that annually.
And the cost of the annual survey is what again?
And Ms. Miller and Steve Lilly are coming to the podium as well.
The committee recommendation is to not renew that contract at this time because they've extended out. And what RSPE advised us is that at the end of it, to hold off before we would re-enter into a new contract.
And the cost of that contract is what again, please?
Good evening. I believe it was approximately And
It's
that-
paid in full. We have
Yes.
no more other obligations.
no more obligations.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Yes, Ms. Page?
Just a comment, do we share this information with the UG? You know, there's a segment where we look at the income, we look at the number of single homes and all that. I don't know, I'm quite sure they should do it, but to let them know, because that's a problem for us when it comes to recruiting, because we don't have a lot of leasing or houses that they lease, and most people don't really want to buy because they may not be committed to stay here that long. So I didn't know if we share the information out, how that can be problematic for us in regard to recruiting, as well as when you're doing this stuff and you see the income of the people who live here, you know, we have big plans and that's great, but you don't have the income base, to me, to support a lot of this stuff. So I know they do their research, but do we share our data, our information? I think it would help them help us if we shared that with them, because that does create a problem for us in regard to recruitment. Just ask.
I'm just making sure I understand the question.
No, it's a comment.
Okay.
In
But
essence, do we share the data with
they actually are a big partnership in the process of the work. The UG is in the process in our work itself. So they're very involved in it. So they're very aware of it. Now, I'm hearing a question is, do we actually see do they actually see the enrollment numbers? And I will certainly look into that for you.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
it's a
then
good question.
you said we share. Do they ever offer to help pay? I'm just asking.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
and you don't have to answer. I'm just wondering.
Good question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Ms. Page, if I can just add, I think our community is currently going through a comprehensive strategy plan that the UG is facilitating. There's many different avenues of that. One piece of that plan is transit-oriented, but also around the big pieces of infrastructure that are in our community that then we build around those things. So we know that we just built Carl Bruce. So you would build housing and you would build transportation hubs around those entities that you know are not going to move versus buildings that maybe defray or those types of things. So I think that conversation is there. The UG is trying to facilitate what that looks like. But I think the data related to enrollment, part of that also goes into our community's master plan. So we know that there's no multi-family housing in Rosedale. And so how does the UG invest in those types of things, and how do we as a school district then advocate like, hey, our enrollment is down at Frank Rushton. We really, instead of busing kids over, we really need affordable housing in this community where this brand new school is, where there are sidewalks and those types of things. So I think there is some advocacy on our end that we can prioritize and are prioritizing to make sure that those types of things are addressed so that we can be a place where we can recruit people to not only live, work, and play in our community, so.
And I would add, I think you remember when we were discussing salaries, I obtained data from the UG and presented to the board in my comments for not voting for the budget because we had not, in my opinion, considered the comparisons of tax base and all those other factors to Wyandotte and Johnson. So I'm in communication with the data person at the UG, and it's easy to compare, contrast numbers, but there has to be a willingness to, as we look at our district, I mean, really to crunch numbers. And it's easy for some, and it's enjoyable for some, and it's a task for others.
Yes, I would agree.
Second.
I do want to offer a clarifying comment. That larger comprehensive contract is ended, but I would say just given the dynamics of our district and the population, whether it's RSP or someone, we do need to look at our enrollment patterns and analysis on an annual basis. And if that's not something that we have done annually as a district, we do need to have a check each year at some point so that you don't have situations where all of a sudden a school is completely has very low enrollment and you're being reactive. So my comment about, and I apologize if there was confusion, the boundary committee and the board does need to look at what our enrollment patterns are annually in order for us to be proactive and not reactive. And I do disagree. I mean, I do agree that it should include the UG, but I didn't want people to walk away thinking that we're not gonna look at this next year as well.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Dr. Stubblefield. Thank you for the comments. Additional thoughts or comments, discussion? Great
I would just add that based on what I read from the minutes of the boundary meeting, there are many pieces at play because I hear Dr. Stubblefield, but I also know that there is a pattern that we see that we have to address, but we also are waiting on the facilities master plan and some of these other things to wrap up so we as a board can look at it all together. Let me know if that's not how I'm comprehending, because there are concerning things in the enrollment thing, but based on what I read from the minutes, we're waiting for the facilities plan and direction from this board of what to do next.
I think that's right, and I see Dr. Stubblefield nodding her head as well. So thank you for that clarification. Yep, thank you.
And Mr. Lopez, I sat on the committee with Ms. Humphries. I asked the question, and I know we can't tell now what's going to be the impact. I think it's 2024, 2025, when kids are allowed to go wherever they want.
Yeah.
Ours is already on the decline, and I don't know how much that's going to affect us, in addition to other legislative policies that Good Topeka is coming up with. It doesn't always benefit urban schools.
Yeah, there's a lot of legislation coming down, and thank you for that reminder, Ms. Page. And it's just a nice reminder to say thank you to Dr. Nguyen for fighting the good fight down there in Topeka.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez, could I add a comment too? And because we're kind of recovering from the pandemic, the numbers were impacted by that. So that's why we wanted to take a step back to get rock solid for another year. So we should probably look next year again. So.
Great, thank you. Additional comments or conversation? Great discussion. Seeing none. Ms. Smith, there is a motion and a second on the floor, if I'm not mistaken. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next agenda item, it's recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the community eligibility provision submitted by Ruchi Favreau, Director of Nutritional Services, Mr. Steve Lilly, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Lopez, the last time we had this discussion may have been a couple years ago. There was a price tag. I don't see any reference to that on this explanation. Am I mistaken?
Let me see Ruchi coming to the microphone. And I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
You did good. Can you define what the price tag was last time? I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
There was discussion that to facilitate this, there would be additional funding needed.
So
And
currently,
if you could speak into the microphone, just thank you.
the district ISP currently is at 54.24. So that should reimburse us at 93% at the free student reimbursement rate, and the remaining 7% would be at the paid rate. But right now, I'm working with the state as well as a third-party organization to maximize a CEP contribution to the district. So we're currently working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, if that helps.
Well, no, you're saying there's no additional funding needed.
We don't know. There will be no additional funding needed because it's district-wide. It's not 13 schools.
Then we take your word at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Additional questions? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next agenda, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education accept the bid from CNC Produce in the amount of $1,200,385 for produce vendor for the 2023-24 school year in accordance with the requirements of Board Policy DJED as submitted by Mr. Wayne Carell, Mr. Steve Lilly, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next agenda item is recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education accept as an informational item the ESSER quarterly report that, as submitted by Ms. Tracy Kaiser, Mr. Steve Lilly, and recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield. Board, as a reminder, we requested that anytime quarterly reports were submitted to the state, that those also be shared with the board. This, if I am not mistaken, this report has been submitted, and so it's being shared with the board. But moving forward, these will continue to come for the board for approval as well. And if I misspoke, Dr. Stubblefield, please correct me. But this is here, and I know there were some questions ahead of time, but if there are additional questions now. And so this is for information purposes tonight for the board to accept as an informational item. Is that correct, Dr. Stubblefield?
No, actually, it's for approval because we've discussed ESSER. So if the board wants to delay it and receive it as an informational item, they can. If Ms. Kaiser or Mr. Lilly can, I think there's definite deadlines. So I think we've already submitted this one. Moving forward, we can work to bring it to the board. Ms. Kaiser, if I'm misspeaking, please tell me. We can bring it before we actually have to submit it. But the deadlines for this quarter were already here when we were made aware of it. So we had to meet the deadline and then put it on the board meeting after that.
Yes, good evening. That is correct. We have about 20 days to submit the quarterly report, so it may be a timing issue to be able to bring it as an informational item and then have approval before that, because we do have to submit it by the 20th day following the end of each quarter. And so this one ended in March, so we submitted it April 20th.
Okay, so this is for approval. It's already been submitted, and the board needs to formally approve this, but it has been submitted
Yes,
as a
it has
report.
been.
Correct, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear. Thank you. So if there's,
Can I just get clarity on what we're approving? Because if this hasn't been the process before, I'm not sure why we're approving it now. Also, I'm not understanding the quarterly
Timetable? Timetable?
Yes, like I am very confused, and if I'm gonna approve something, why would I not see it before and so I'm really trying to understand that piece, and I'm
Right.
confused. So it's now May.
yeah.
It was
so-
submitted in March, but we're being asked to approve it, but we haven't approved it before. And then when is the next report due?
So that's an excellent question, and I'll try to answer from my recollection. So you're correct that previously these were not brought to the board for approval. They were submitted. There was board conversation during the last ESSER presentation that was given, and I don't remember the date that was, but the board asked collectively for us to see the quarterly reports as they were submitted, and so that's why they're being brought forward. The actual reports that are submitted are being brought forward now. They were not previously, but the board collectively said, hey, we'd like to see those and approve those.
Can it not just be an informational item?
So I think that's conversation for the board. I think what we understood from the board was that we wanted to see these reports before they were submitted. And Tracy and Dr. Stubblefield, if I am misstating anything, please correct me, or board members.
Can't you see something without approving it? Because I'm not sure that I'm in agreement, or that was when I was asking to see the information, I was asking to see it so I knew what was going on, not necessarily because then I don't want to be.
So I think if we can get clarity, that's an excellent question, Ms. Russell. I think if we can get clarity to give to staff, because I think the understanding was that from staff was that the board was asking to bring these forward for approval, not just for informational purposes, but if the board collectively said, hey, we'd like to just see them as informational, we certainly can do so, but I think it was staff's understanding to bring these for approval. This one has already been submitted because of the timing of when that conversation happened.
But she just said that she wouldn't be able to bring it to us anytime before approval because it's the 20th. And maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, I can try to. Just when the quarter, for this example, quarter ended March 31st, it has to be submitted to KSDE by April 20th, and it takes me probably a week to compile all the information. So I was just saying it may be a challenge to get that coordinated with 2 board meetings to come as an informational item and then for approval before submitting it. That would be my only concern.
But then you have to ask the question, when were the dates given that this stuff was due? And if it's due at a certain time, then again, I'm naive. I'm thinking if you know that in advance, and I would assume for us to get the money, the dates had to be given, that could have been presented at the necessary meeting. Because it is goofy. We're going to vote on something that's already been turned in. You know, we're the board. We get blamed for everything. I don't care what it is. It's that board. So I would like to know before it goes in and see it. And I think there's a time. I can't believe they don't give you a time schedule to say when the stuff is due. And then according to our calendars of meeting, then that can be set up and presented so that we'll know. And not trying to give you a hard time, but it just makes sense for us to see it before it's presented, and then we vote on it.
And I think part of it is as well, and again, if I'm misspeaking, but these items have already been looked at and approved by the board in terms of expenditure, as ESSER expenditures, in terms of the broad categories, and also some of the items that are being presented. So those items, from my understanding, have already been approved by the board, and so they're using that to then submit the reports. Now, I'm certain that, and Ms. Kaiser can share, do we have those dates? I'm certain that we do, but the actual expenditures, ESSER expenditures, have already been presented to the board and have been approved by the board for this term, if that's.
I get that, but I still, even after you put it together, I think we need to be able to see it because something could have changed. And it's not that we had anything to do with it, but we need to know. Because I asked the question because someone asked me. I already asked it, so I'm not trying to surprise anybody. Our enrollment for summer school is down. We've allotted quite a bit of money. So what happens to that money? And I was told it would, based on what the board desires, that we would come back and reassess that. But I wanted people to know because they were saying, if enrollment's down and look at the monies you've allotted, what happens to that money? And people want to know.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that because I also want to echo that thought because that is the exact reason why I asked for this was because we said we were going to spend $6 million on cameras. We then asked the community what they wanted. They have heard the board have no conversation around what the results and what we are doing with that money. So similar to the question that Ms. Page got asked, that's what I've been asked is what has the board decided to do with the money? And I know that at that presentation, things were moved around. We said yes to these things, but there still says that there's $6 million in here for cameras. We know we're not doing all of the cameras, so what are we doing with the rest of? So that is where I come from with it.
Ms. Russell and Ms. Page, thank you for that. And Ms. Kaiser, please interrupt me if I'm misspeaking, those expenditures on there are expenditures that have come individually, like Mr. Lopez said, to the board, and then they're just compiled in that list and submitted there. The $6 million for so items where we've allocated money for specific things that the board has approved and it has not been spent, when we bring an item to the board in the future, or if the board asked us to bring something, it would be approved by you all. What I shared at that meeting was that what we need to do a better job of saying, like, if we bring an item forward, for example, when we looked at the audio enhancement and the cameras and the security, that's where we're looking at reallocating the camera, the money that was allocated for the cameras, but we are still waiting on that final number. So when we bring that to the board, we would say this was originally allocated for the cameras. We're asking for reallocation. We haven't had the opportunity to bring something that was not already had a line item. And I just said we had previously would, based off stuff that you approved, shift the money around, but moving forward, we will be more clear or be explicit about there was $10 million allocated for summer school. Summer school only costs $5 million. With this extra $1 million, we're asking to buy classroom sets of Algebra 2 books for all the high school students. That's where we had not been clear in the past. We just were bringing items that were on the approved list and not saying we reallocated the money. But moving forward, we will say where that particular item is coming from. And so this is new to all of us, as much as we can when we know the dates. Some months we don't have 2 board meetings. If it's just an information item, we will do whatever the board prefers around that, and we can plan it out for this last year, the last 4 quarters accordingly, and just have it as a standing item on the agenda. And if we can do it before, we can. If we can't, we'll communicate to the board the rationale why, and then follow the lead of the board to address it.
I just want to add that I think, in addition to reallocating, I also want it to be ESSER 3, as I mentioned in the last meeting, was based on community feedback. So how are we addressing the things that were brought up in the surveys through these reallocations? Not just reallocating to books because that's what we need, but listening to what our community said they wanted these funds to be utilized. And if we're reallocating, then I, number one, want it to be supportive of what the community said, because that was the intent of these funds.
Yes. So I just want to be clear, the books was an example.
I know that was an example, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, moving forward, and all of the things that we have brought forward have majority of them. Actually, all of it came from feedback from staff, board members, and community members. All of the items that are on there that we brought forward previously, because we did the survey, the original survey in the fall of 2021. So, but all of the partnerships that we've done, the tutoring, all of those things came from that. And as when we sent out the last survey, if there was something different or new, or if people had ideas, we are either researching what that looked like, what it looks like, and or exploring what are the possibilities. There were a lot of items that were on that list that are not approved ESSER things that you can allocate the money for, but where we can address those in general funds or other areas, we have been looking at those and incorporating it in that manner. If any board members have things specifically that you feel like we are missing or that people have discussed and we overlooked, please don't hesitate to point it out. But I think based off the information that we have, we believe we have been addressing it, but we may have missed something.
Ms. Humphries, then Ms. Page.
Okay, Tracy, I want to make sure that everyone make sure I'm understanding correctly. You have to file quarterly reports of how much you spent on what, correct? And that last deadline was March 31st. It takes you 7 to 10 days to wrap everything up into the report. It has to be submitted, but to KSDE by the 20th of April. So what you're saying is, it would be very difficult to have it come to us at 2 different board meetings and then still get it filed on time. So.
That's absolutely correct. Yes, so the next report will be through June 30th. And so that will be, again, expenditures that have already been spent, and it will be due on July 20th. And I believe you only have the one board meeting on July 18th. So we would need direction from the board if you were wanting to have a special board meeting or something along those lines.
Because it does take a few days to
Yes.
wrap everything up, just like any business. They have your credit card statement. It ends on one date, it takes about a week. Well, online it's quicker, but if they were mailing it, it would take about a week for that to arrive in your mailbox. Just like everything else, there's a time delay from the last day that you count it till it gets to you.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just, as we started talking about allocations on different things, we kind of got off of the report.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification on the process and the dates and why it might be difficult to get 2 meetings, to get this in front of the board in 2 meetings. So that was helpful for me, Ms. Humphries. And Ms. Page.
Again, no disrespect, but I still believe you've been given dates in advance, that this just doesn't blow up in the wind, that we know when the school year starts, we know when we should know by now. Some of us have been doing it a long time, when the dates are, when things are required. That's my issue.
Yeah, and I think that's what Ms. Humphries
No.
is
I
saying,
understand
is
what
that
she was saying. I'm just saying, I still say, I know it takes time, but you still have a list of dates. I find it hard to believe that when you get something, they wouldn't say, you need to have a report in on this date, that date, and then you got to work around the times when we have meetings. This is not a surprise.
Right, and I think that's what was, just for clarity, and if I understand it, we do have the dates, and Ms. Kaiser, can you please send out those dates to the full board so we have them? Sure. But the difficulty is in that transition when quarter ends June 30th, that it takes the team 7 days to get, so they have the dates. They know it's due July 30th, but it goes through June 30th, or it's due July 20th. The expenditures go through June 30th, so they know that. It just takes them a week to gather that information. So I think you're absolutely right. We know all of the dates. It's just the process that it takes to get all of that in order to get the reports to us within the 2 meetings. But you're right, and I think we can get everybody the dates. We do have the dates, and I'm sure those were given to us, so.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez, I just want to clarify, it's because we can expend the money up until June 30th. So if we were like trying to be proactive and bring it to you in the second June meeting on June 28th, it's not accurate because it's still 2 more days of spending or expenditures that could occur. So Ms. Page, that's why it's difficult. Like, it's not difficult, but if the meetings don't align perfectly with that end of the quarter date, what we present to you would not be the full report. It will be like, here's what we spent up until the week before the board meeting or whenever we submitted it as an item. And so whatever lag time happens after that, there will be expenditures that would not be reflected on whatever you are receiving because the expenditures can go till the end of the month.
Ms. Russell and then Ms. Clark, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
I didn't have a comment.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I think the question around, can this just be an informational? I echo the sentiment that it is silly to approve something that's already been submitted. I think the board has talked about how we do not appreciate us having to accept things or do things after it's already been done, just kind of rubber stamping it for the lack of a better word. But I think if we can get the information as informational, so if the report's due July 20th, I know that at the next board meeting, I'm going to get an update and I can ask my questions. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do in the in-between time about the expenditures. I also can see the expenditures on the bills every month. But I think what we're asking is for it to be an informational item and not something we're accepting as a board.
Ms. Clark?
I think we're aligned there. That's what I was thinking as well. I think what happened is the conversation took place about approving these, and these expenses had already taken place. So we probably have, what, at least one more report that the money's already been spent. And now, so then there's another one. I'm just thinking about how many more of these reports do we have that we probably need to talk through. And then the board probably needs to make a decision of, now we're at the point where we're being a little bit more proactive, or the dollars are in front of us versus behind us, and do we still want to approve those dollars versus it just being information only? That's the process I hear.
Right, there will be 5 more reports
Okay.
before September 30th of 2024. 4 quarterly and then a final. And then I also do an annual report that is a year behind for the state that also goes through, or excuse me, for the federal government that they request. And so in January, I will be reporting to actually 2 years prior at that point.
So back to Dr. Stubblefield's comment of just making this a staple item on our agenda. For me, if we're having those fluid conversations and they're regular within our board meetings, I think I'm fine as long as we're aligned in that way. But I'm only one voice to the board, so.
Right, I'm not satisfied with that process because, and help me, Mr. Lilly and Ms. Kaiser. So what's the balance of expenditures that remain unspent? Not allocated, but unspent. Is total expenditure 65 million?
That is correct, 65.7 million across all 4.
Okay, so is that the report that's going in that already went in?
That is correct.
Okay, so why I'm not happy with that process is that if there's about 19.2, my subtraction is correct?
Between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, I believe it's about 31 million.
Okay, 31 million. So what you're saying is that some of you up there, we'll see salaries. No, we won't see the salaries. We won't see and you better show it to me if we do. We won't see the money allocated for special pay or something. So we don't see all the expenditures. If we were to decide we wanted to change XYZ, we would need to approve that. So I'm not happy with just letting it fly, and we have special meetings for everything else. So and what I know you don't do, your accounting does not start at that end date. You don't start inputting all the expenditures for this quarter on July 1, do you?
No.
No. So you're saying it's going to take you 10 days? Fine, it takes you 10 days, but you don't start inputting your numbers on July 1. So, sounds like thunder. Anywho, so no, I don't understand the reluctance of some of us of actually approving millions of dollars prior to spending. And I said us, I didn't say you. So no, I will not support just, I'm in favor of approving a report before it's sent off. I'm not happy with the fact, what number of this, what number report is this? Quarterly report is this? 4? 5?
It's more than that, because I'm trying to think back when we first got ESSER funds was in 2021. I believe we had to start submitting these, I believe, in 2021.
So, we haven't seen a lot of reports, folks, and there's a lot of millions of dollars that, and I'll go back to what I said 2 weeks ago. We don't know how it's spent. We've got things on the list, but my question, that's not a surprise, was that, so if it's spent for learning loss, let's close the loop. How do we know it was spent and learning loss was addressed? We don't know. So no, I will not support just getting it and as an information, no.
Dr. Nguyen, I do want to clarify, every item that's on there, you all have approved.
I understand that, Dr. Stubblefield, but I'm saying if you got 31 million left and we approved the use of XYZ, 4 years, 2 or 3 years later now, we may decide because ABC did not really yield the results we needed or the outcomes we needed, we need to reassess how we're spending the money. That's all I'm saying. I know they've been approved.
Right, what I'm saying is what you approved originally was this is what the money can be spent for. Every time we actually do something, we bring that item to the board to.
I am not saying that they're surprises. No, 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 no. Please understand, everything, if we read everything, we've seen that item before. I understand that. Trust you, blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying if now we need to make some readjustments, we need to look at how we spent this, and if there's 30 million left, we may need to reevaluate. That's all I'm saying.
I understood, and what we as staff need direction on, if you want to reevaluate or look at it as a board collectively, you will have to make that determination and we will adjust.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you for restating that. You've got it clear, yes. And that's why will not accept it as an informational. I'm saying we need to start reevaluating, and if that 30 million, we know that 30 million is not going to come anymore. That's all I'm saying. So thank you, Dr. Stubblefield, for clarifying and restating what I was saying. Thank you.
Ms. Russell.
So I just want to say that my reluctance to it coming as an informational item is based on the fact that if the report is already submitted, I don't understand why I'm approving it. That is why I'm reluctant to have it as an acceptance, because that means that I'm saying whatever you did with the money, I'm okay with, even though I have no choice because you've already sent it to KSDE. However, I do want to clarify that as of March 31st, when this report was submitted, based on ESSER 3 direct allocation, the third line over, it says we only spent $24 million in ESSER $3, which would actually leave us a balance of $58 million in ESSER $3, which is different than the $31 million. I think, I'm not sure where the $31 million number is coming from. If on this report it says we're only reporting up to $24 million. I thought we spent all of ESSER 2 at this point.
I apologize, that was incorrect. I was trying to add math very quickly. I was looking at the full 65 million. You are correct. So we have 82.5 million in ESSER 3, and we've spent almost 24.5. And
because as a district, we have $112 million or $120 million altogether through all of the ESSER dollars.
I'm sorry, what was that? What was the question?
So through ESSER 1 to ESSER 3, we as a district have received $120 million. It would be that $58 million plus the $65 million number. Because ESSER 3 is $82 million. Here it's saying we spent $24 million. That equals $58,052,357 remaining as of this report. So if I put that number with the 65 number that's at the end of the report, our district will have received $123 million in ESSER funds total, or that's what we're allocated. Do we know what our total allocation amount is?
Well, Ms. Kaiser is getting that. I do also want to remind everyone that when you remember the chart, 49% of it was allocated for staff retention, ESSER $3, and then there's a large amount, there's several positions that are staff do that. So while those things are paid for quarterly. Ms. Kaiser, if I'm misspeaking, that money, unless we are ending contracts for individuals, that the way that we report that, it is quarterly. So some of it, to Ms. Dr. Wynn's point, we already know those items will be on there, unless I'm misspeaking, Ms. Kaiser. So there are some things that money is allocated for that the bill is not due yet, so we wouldn't want to like double spend the money. So we would have to clean all of that's the salaries and those kind of things out of it before you actually had an actual account. If that's not correct, Ms. Kaiser, please correct me.
So essentially, you're saying $27 million is already accounted for in agreements or contracts, and that's where the 31 is coming from, which would be the difference of the 58 that in this report says is remaining.
Yeah, what I just figured is the total between ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and ESSER SPED and ESSER 1 and 2 is about $138 million. We have approximately $72 million that has not been expended, and this is a reimbursement, so we have to spend the money and then we get reimbursed for it. So as of March 31st, I guess, this would have been what they had reimbursed us for, so it's always a lag time also of a month. So the things that have been committed to would not be shown in here. So as for ESSER 2, we have not received all the reimbursement for it yet, but we have allocated those towards the HVAC systems that we're working on. So that money's encumbered, things like that, but we have not actually received reimbursement, and I have to report what has actually been reimbursed as of March 31st.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you. So, I mean, I'm hearing a couple of different thoughts in terms of the process. Again, I understand that this report has already been submitted, and so I understand and hearing whether this actually needs to be approved by the board or not. It's on the agenda for potential approval, but it has been submitted to the state, so I understand there's some question on whether we need to approve this report in particular, but also moving forward, what the process is for those reports and how the board wants to handle and work through these reports is what we need to give clarity to staff so that they understand how to move forward with that. So let's tackle the first one, which is this current report. Again, already dollars that have been expended and report that has been submitted to the state. It's here in front of you for potential approval if that's the will of the board, or
As an information.
to approve as information, correct?
It says.
Correct, and that's what I'm asking, if you want to accept and approve for information purposes, because it has been reported. I heard some folks say that they didn't feel it was necessary potentially for the board to approve as an information or accept as information. That's my question.
Is there a motion on the floor?
There is not.
I'll move to accept as an information item.
There's a motion to accept as an information item. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Do we know for going forward? I don't want us to be in this position for going forward,
So
so.
that's the second part of my question.
Gotcha.
We haven't gotten to that one, Ms.
Okay,
Clark.
all right, I just want to make sure as we're accepting this.
Yep.
we're in
Nope, we haven't gotten to that question. We may need a recess
Yes.
before then. No, but, so no, we haven't gotten clarity on that. Thank
Okay.
you. Additional questions? Okay. Motion to accept, there's a motion on the floor and a second to accept this as an informational item. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Great, motion carries. Thank you. Now to the question that Ms. Clark just asked and the conversation that was being had regarding the process of how we want to see this moving forward. I understand there's several thoughts on how to move forward. So if we could provide some clarity for the board or for staff, that would be great. Yes, Ms. Page.
Well, since we're having a meeting Tuesday, would that not be part of the agenda? Then to sit here at 7:15 I think we could use that time. We'll be brighter. It's early in the morning. We could think through some things and bring some suggestions.
I would be perfectly okay with that. I just don't want to be told that I've been pushing things off. So I just want to make sure if that's the will of the board, that that's what the board wants. So I'm totally okay with having that conversation on Tuesday, although I know Tuesday is a heavy lift with the budget conversation, but that is what this is as well. So to your point, absolutely.
That's the direction we're going to go in, which I'm perfectly fine with that. I do think we need to have the conversation around what's already been spent, and do we want that to come, because that's kind of where this came from today. And then second process of, if the dollars have not been spent, is that what we want to come before? I just want to make sure we know that there's two different parts to this, and we address both of them, or we prepare to address both of them in that combo.
Well, since we're talking, the first part, I agree with you. What has been spent? Second part, we're talking about budget anyway. So why not add that in? This is what we have left. Look at the survey. What did the people want? You know, what do we need? And look at all of that, and then try to come up with something to make it work.
And I'd add a third part, this is one-time money.
Yeah.
You better get bang for your buck.
That's absolutely
My
true.
recommendation.
Bang means student achievement,
Yeah.
learning loss.
My recommendation would not be to add it to the agenda on Tuesday. I think, to Dr. Wynn's point earlier, we have a lot of special meetings for other things, that I think we need another special meeting just to talk about ESSER and talk about our expectations moving forward. I heard multiple things from people tonight of understanding what dollars are already committed and in the ground already, that like that we as a board have said yes to contracts or what have you. I also said this during our last conversation, is what has been the impact on student success, not just related to numbers of people served, but truly, can we look at the money spent on tutoring and say that those students who were impacted by that it has changed for them? Or has it been like last year's summer school, where it was impactful in that short time frame, but it was not impactful over the course? Because then that is that part where we need to do something different, or try something different. I'm not a huge fan of those types of things, but I do think, with respect to Dr. Wynn's point, that like this is one-time money. We have an opportunity to try things, but I don't want to just throw money at something that is not, that we have 2 years worth of data or 2 years worth of partnerships that says it's not working. So that would be my recommendation, is to have a separate meeting and for the board to get all the information that we need moving forward to make a decision of how do we get empowered to, I mean, it is our decision, but for us to say, this is what we want to see.
So how about, and I appreciate that, Ms. Russell, thank you. So in order not to belabor this conversation and to be able to continue to move forward, why don't we work with staff? I think staff is going to be obviously critical to getting us that information, to find a few dates, and then Ms. Smith can help us on our calendars rather than doing that now. And hopefully by Tuesday, we can have a date or two where we can continue this conversation, but pushing pause for now. But I think, to your point, Ms. Russell, and to what everyone's been speaking of, what are those questions, those critical questions that we want to see, that we want information about, so that staff can also bring that forward to us, and then we can have a thoughtful conversation around it. But I think trying to rush through it on Tuesday or tonight, or definitely not going to happen. So if that's acceptable to the board, we will get some dates, and hopefully before or by Tuesday, you will have seen some dates to look at your calendar, so that we can set up a meeting specifically for this conversation. I'm looking around the room for some nods. Is there anyone that disagrees with that? Okay, I don't see anybody. So we will do that moving forward, and hopefully by Tuesday we'll do that. Ms. Smith, we'll chat. Thank you. All right, thank you for that conversation, board. we'll continue with our agenda. We are on letter G, item 6, letter G. It's recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the migration of district email from Microsoft Outlook 365 to Gmail in a 3-year license agreement for Google Education Plus in the amount of $116,592.63 as submitted by Mr. Rashid Hoda, Dr. Judith Campbell, and Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the purchase of protective cases for high school student devices for the amount of $83,248 as submitted by Mr. Rashid Hoda, Dr. Judith Campbell, and Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, it's recommended the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the request for change order by Stanger Industries, Inc. in the amount of $62,805 related to the Washington Elevator Bond Project submitted by Mr. Doug Clements, Steve Lilly, and Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item J, recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the application for a grant opportunity from the United States Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policing Services School Violence Prevention Program. If the grant is awarded, it will allow Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools Police Department to enhance safety preparedness measures and better protect our students and staff.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, it's recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education accept the quote from FDC Contract Flooring in the amount of $172,450 for summer 2023 flooring projects.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Letter L, it is recommended that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve adding the sport of unified bowling beginning 2023 to 2024 school year as submitted by Ms. Tammy Romstad and is recommended by Dr. Anna Stubblefield.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are going to take a quick recess. Board, if we could be back here at 7:05. Thank you. Reconvene at 7:05. Thank you for allowing us to take a quick break. We will reconvene and continue with our agenda. We are on item number 7. These items are for informational purposes only. No action is being asked of the board at this time. Hopefully you had a chance to read through these, but we do have staff available if there are any questions in particular on these items. So first on the agenda is the MOU between KCKPS and KCKCC Upward Bound. Are there any questions regarding
Yes,
this?
Mr. Lopez.
Please, Dr.
Do we
Lynn.
have the MOU available for the other Upward Bound Trio grants?
I don't see them listed there, but we do not. I'm hearing folks say we do not.
They don't exist, or we just don't have them available?
We don't have them, Dr. Nguyen, it's me.
Who's talking? There you go.
We don't have them. It was a process that took some time before we were able to bring this one forward, and we don't have any previous upward bound MOUs.
We don't have any previous Upward Bound programs? Are we
The MOUs to reference,
to reference?
yes.
For this KCKCC or for any other?
I don't feel that we have any other,
Okay,
but we will follow up.
right.
Can you
because-
clarify, we don't currently have any upward bound programs operating in any of our buildings at this time?
We have some, and Dr. Fernandez Flores is going to come up and talk about that.
Right, because there was an answer, I don't remember what the answer was.
We do have some. They were listed. I don't know the individual names. I was not here when those were entered, but the list is in the board question Google sheet. The list of those partnerships are there, and we
Right.
can look for and identify where MOUs would have been kept in previous leadership.
Because the question is, Ms. Dr. Campbell, one would think that if an MOU is required of one would have an MOU requirement of all. And then the second part of that question is, how are they in our schools if there's not something governing their coming and going? And that's just a generic question. So I wait your response.
Let me, I just remembered, we do have the Gear Up MOU. That one is, I can produce.
Right,
That's different from upward.
right.
Dr. Nguyen,
Just
I
looking
don't think
forward
we
to-
have upward bound in any of our buildings. I think this is a new partnership because I spoke with the lady not too long ago and she just was saying that she's glad to be back in our school district. So I'm not sure that we actually we have Trio, we have Gear Up, we have, I want to say Avid, but that's not what I'm
No, that's not what you need.
But there are other programs we have similar to this, but I don't think we have upward bound. The other question I had was, it was mentioned, this partnership, Google, and the questions, and I'm not finding under which one it's under, the question.
Well, I'm finding an answer that says KCKCC's Upward Bound follows the same TRIO grant and guidelines, and that something to the order of, we currently welcome the following upward bound, KU upward bound math and science, Wichita State upward bound math and science in the answers of board questions and answer in the board library. And just the question is, one would think whatever the program is called, be it upward bound or trio, there would be some type of documentation governing their coming and going. So I look forward to that answer. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do you find it, Ms. Russell?
I'm still not
Okay.
finding it, but it's okay.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay, thank you. Next item is,
I think you have to prove that.
no, these are just information. No action is being asked of the board. These will potentially come back before the board at a future board meeting for potential action.
Was the question asked if this MOU requires any funding, or is it going out, is it a grant, or, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find two things at the same time. But is this a grant-funded project, or is there dollars that we're paying for this program to support the work that they're going to be doing? How is this program funded?
Dr. Fernandez Flores, can you talk to us about how the program is going to be funded upward bound?
And it can also come back later since it's coming.
This is federally funded.
It's a federal grant that KCKCC was awarded. So they completed an application and used our schools as the basis of supporting us using the parameters of the upper bound programming from the federal government. So it's federally funded through KCKCC.
Under explanation.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay. If not, we will move to item B. This is the IXL educational software proposal. Are there questions regarding this item?
I have a question. I wanted to know, how will there be parent engagement involved in this program, in the IXL?
And Mr. Matt Anderson is coming.
And it's very explicit in how everything's going to be set up. I'm just curious about the engagement with parents.
Good evening, Board. There is a parent component to it within the Learning Hub on the program, so parents can access that. Students will have access to the platform 24/7, so if they want to use it at home, they can use it at home. When parents log in with the student, they can actually go in and look at the analytics of how the student's progressing within the program as well. So there's user guides and things in there. In one of the PDFs that's shared on the board reports, there's a little area for how parents are engaged in the program themselves.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Humphries?
Ms. Stewart showed me this program yesterday when I was at Wyandotte. And she was showing me how parents can be involved with their kids in using it and understanding the skills that their students practicing. It was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Is there a training class for parents? If you have parents who maybe they may not be as proficient as most, is there a segment where they can come in and receive some sort of training, some sort of help to help them navigate this?
So, Ms. Page, that's a great question. There's opportunities that we can build into what we can do here at the systems level, and we can work with IXL to determine how to best do that. So we can provide families with supports on how to access those
Because I think some will need it because they're doing math differently than what their kids are doing. And they may need a little help and strategies, how I can help them. And the more we can assist, we have nothing to lose.
Ms. Page, also other opportunities that will present our families to have access is during the curriculum nights. So that is the other option that we will be embedding in here for KCKPS families.
Yeah, and I was just going to echo Ms. Humphrey's comments. Some of our buildings have already been using it they've been using Title I dollars or what have you to implement it. And I personally have interacted. It is a pretty user-friendly app that the students are using on their iPads, because I used it at the elementary level. And so I think it will be beneficial, and I think conversations have said that this is something that all of the kids in our district could benefit from. So I look forward to seeing it implemented with fidelity, as well as leveraging those curriculum nights to make sure that parents understand. And since we will have connected iPads and all of that, that I think it will mirror well with all of the things. So thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments?
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Okay, so you're talking about only 5,400 students using it?
So there's two proposals on there. One is the 5,400 students. That is what they currently had on the books, what was sent to KSDE. And then the other proposal is for the remaining, I don't remember off the top of my head, the 12,000 some students for K-12. So there's two proposals that adds those both together, which is about $160,000, and that is picked up by KSDE as part of this contract.
So there are plans for all students to use this?
K-12, all students, correct.
Okay, because what I heard you say to one question is that the answer wasn't definitive. Your answer was like, we can. Well, what do you plan on doing?
For parents.
Yeah.
That's the part.
So there's no plans right now for parents?
Except for our parent nights to provide them with opportunities to understand the program. But there is, the cost that we would pick up is the $25,000 for the additional PD, because KSD is only offering a limited amount of professional development. And for a district our size, it's not enough, and we want to make sure that our staff have the necessary training to implement with fidelity, utilize the data the best way.
Yeah, we use that word fidelity a lot, and it doesn't always happen. So look forward to seeing it definitively used.
Thank you. Additional comments, questions?
Let me ask you one more. So how do we measure success?
We will be doing a program evaluation with the program. So we will follow the data to determine that we're getting the implementation usage that we have set, as well as determining if it's impacting students on our local assessments. So are we seeing progress on our FastBridge assessments?
At what intervals?
We would do a fall, winter, and spring. The fall will be our baseline. From there, we would check in on winter FastBridge data to determine how kids are progressing in the math areas, and then we would also do one in spring.
And if you find that it's not making a positive impact, what are you going to do?
We will go back to the drawing board and look what else is out there.
So we'll get those reports at those intervals.
We will work with DARA to make sure we get you the proper information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Ms. Russell.
You said something that then made me ask. So we're not using, because currently I can see the data, whatever word, for my student as they progress, or I guess she's in middle school now, but like I was able to see it in the IXL, like at a building level, you could see the data. We're not using the data from the program. We're going to do it based on our common assessment data, which I'm not hearing glowing reviews about. So can you clarify why we're not using the data that's available in the system?
I will refer to DARA to help us with the program evaluation pieces.
Okay.
One of the things we want to ensure is that when we look at our local assessments, that the program is impacting our local assessments. And so FastBridge isn't our common assessments, it's our universal screener. So I'll have Dr. Conrad share as well.
Good evening, Board. We actually did a pilot, and we did an evaluation of those, and I believe that those are included. We've included those and talked about those. The evaluation of the program would follow something very similar. And so we do have an outside measure that we would make sure that not only within the platform we're seeing progress and that students are making that progress, but then that it's translating to other measures that we also find important, such as a FastBridge screener, our district common assessments, which I'm sorry to hear, they are not getting glowing reviews. And then also the state assessment. We want to see movement. We want to see it translate.
Okay. I'll have a question when you bring the data back. But it's a little concerning because I'm not sure that it's, yeah. I need to get my question together and I'll follow up with you.
I look forward
appreciate
to it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Well, you need to get your question together so you can publicly ask it, okay? Got following up with him separately doesn't answer the question for the rest of us and the public.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Dr. Conrad, thank you, board, for the questions and conversation. Next item on the agenda is our Summer Learning Partners Enrichment with the proposal for KCKCC Driver's Ed and Alvin Ailey. Any questions on this item?
Mr. Lopez.
Yes,
I
Ms.
have
Page,
one.
please.
I noticed, because I asked the question about how many students, and for the driver's ed part, they're only doing 20. Will they ever increase that?
The goal would be, but as we look for those people who are able to actually offer the course, we will have 10 students that will have the opportunity at Sligo and 10 at Washington, for a total of 20 students.
But I don't know if I said it clearly. I heard what you, I saw that in the answer to, but I was just wondering, will we ever increase it to go to all the schools? Because before, they used to offer driver's ed at every school. And I know times are different, things have changed. But would they offer it to the other schools besides those two?
So just to clarify, we are blending for our summer learning schools. So we have our students that are at Wyandotte and Sligo. We're blending schools. So it will be offered to all those groups of students, but for the priority high schools or where the summer learning program will take place, it will be offered to that group of students. But unfortunately, our numbers are limited and low due to we have to have a certified driver who can be able to teach the course. And currently, those positions are very difficult to find. So the goal would be to absolutely increase it and possibly even have the opportunity to offer it back throughout the regular school year, which used to take place many years ago. But the challenge is having somebody to be able to really teach and offer that course for our students.
And it's free?
It will be for our students. Yes.
I will just throw this suggestion out there. Police Athletic League, they also offer a free program, and maybe there's an opportunity for us to partner with them, because I know a couple of students at Sumner, they currently have an evening class, but they may be, as we try to expand, they may be a resource that we're able to provide, as well as maybe some funding to help them since they have the driver or what have you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do we advertise participation in Alvin Ailey camps? And the reason I asked that, when I attended their opening last year, maybe there was a busload of children from Topeka that participated. So help me understand that.
Dr. Fernandez Flores is coming up to express how it goes out to our students and also students within the area.
Information is distributed from our fine arts and performing arts and PE department out to families. And so they are in contact with the KCFA Ainley camp, and they inform us of how many students have enrolled, and then our team sends more information out to families about enrollment.
So help me understand, we did not fill all the slots? Is that why the kids from Topeka were able to participate, or what? We had
I don't know
additional?
about last year. This year, I know that we've already received an email that says that the camp is not full And so our team is then deploying more information out to families to ensure that they know that there is opening so our families can apply.
Okay, who does know about last year?
I could follow up with you, Dr.
Okay.
Lynn, because
I think
what
we
I'm.
were both at that opening day.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll
thank
follow
you.
back up with you.
Thank you. Additional questions? All right, thank you. The next agenda item is the informational item on the MOU between KCKPS and Community Housing of Wyandotte County, CHWC. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes, I had a question that I already wrote the question to about the skills that these kids would receive. And I guess ma'am, my question is, you know exactly what type of skills they plan to receive?
We are going to be fulfilling the competencies of the work-based learning course, and we're going to be building the skills dependent on the project that we are working on at that moment. So if the project that the housing has to do with electrical work, they're going to be developing their skills around that area. We're also going to bring to the board in the next meeting the curriculum that we're going to be using for our students to develop, those other basic skills that are needed to deploy into the field.
Okay. And the real concern I have is that they not use our students as laborers, and that they leave. What's the duration of the program?
It's a semester.
Okay.
And if a student would like to come back, they would be able to enroll. But it is a course for students to develop their skills and not for the organization to get free labor which is why there are always going to be a teacher with them. And so it's a partnership. And so we're both working together.
Well, having a teacher does not guarantee that. And do you all understand when I say laborers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not skilled workers, but
Right.
cleaning the trash up from the job.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, and Dr. Nguyen, I think that's an excellent point. I think that goes to why the importance of the work that we're integrating our curriculum and our Diploma Plus work and making sure, I think, big picture, right? That as we're looking at what our students can be as they go off to trade school, college, that we're aligning all of those skills that are needed, the curriculum, the education that they're needing, all the way K through 12, right? And so I think it's a heavy lift. I know this is newer since we've integrated the two departments, but I think that's an excellent point. We want our students that when they're out there, they're actually doing things that are improving their skills, that are preparing them for what it is that they're seeing, and that are tied to what they're learning in the classroom and in the curriculum. So completely agree. That's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the curriculum
Thank you.
and seeing the oversight.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
I don't have additional questions, but we are approving a lot more things for our students to be involved in, which I very much appreciate the boots to the ground that are making sure these opportunities are there. I do think it would be good at some point, and I don't know how it could be taken care of, but to be able to hear from some of the students and the experiences they've received. We have kids at KCK Community College. We are approving other MOUs, and just to be able to have them be in front of us or be able to see pictures of those kids to make it very real, I think that would be very helpful as we continue to move into the next school year. So that's just a recommendation.
Yeah, and it allows us to understand whether that was a partnership that's worth continuing or not. Not specific to the one in front of us, but to your point, yeah.
I think Mr. Lopez, I'm sorry. I just wanted to use this time to plug that we did just have our work-based learning showcase. What we can do, and Dr. Fernandez Flores and her team, we can pull some of those kids, but all of those students who were a part of those projects we had our first display last week, and they provided the information and talked about the different projects that they completed, but we can make sure that we either try to align that maybe in the future with a board meeting night so board members can see it and also possibly recognize those students or bring them to the board meeting as well. But we did just have that showcase last week.
Thanks, Dr. Stubblefield.
Did you have, Ms. Russell, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, it probably predates many people that are now here, but it's similar to when J.E. done during the bond project, they had this student and they came back and they provided the portfolio of like, this is what's been accomplished. I know like the client-based projects, like I saw the list of them, but I didn't understand what did you do or like help me see the story of what our students are doing. Because to your point in knowing that you support paid internships, I think that's exactly what we want to make sure. And I think that's what we also heard today. Like our kids are going to get training to be 911 people, but they actually won't be able to like do the skill. And so I echo everything that's been said, but I also think if we look back to how we've previously asked for those things, we could also see some suggestions or ideas for what we could do moving forward.
Great, thank you.
I can predate you even further, Ms. Russell. There was a program that came through the United Way and had trades working with our students, and they were housed at Juniper Gardens.
Youth build.
And they ended up doing nothing. And my question was, would the students learn how to read a blueprint?
Yeah.
And the guy almost fell off the floor because they ended up doing nothing. They had computers hooked up, they had computers set up that weren't even hooked up. So there's a lot of experiences of using our youth for fairly funded programs. They get the dollars and our kids get the shaft. So institutional history is rewarding for some of people who have not been familiar with how nonprofits, it's an interesting kind of concept that nonprofits use bodies to get federal dollars.
Additional comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Page.
I just wanted to say, if there's some way we can work it, of all the things I've heard, if these kids could get an internship and figure out some way that they could move from that to a job, it would help. And it can be success stories that we can tell. 'Cause we don't want them used. We want to make sure that they can leave from, if I wanted to be a 911 operator, some of these kids love the phone. That may be something that they can work and do without any trouble and may have the maturity to handle it if there was some way they can get a job. And that's the key, to be able to get them from point A to point B. And when we spend all that money, my complaint against J.E. Dunn, and get one internship, there's something wrong. But that's just me, and I'll leave that alone.
Thank you, Ms. Page.
The thing about bringing up the past, I'm sorry, Ms. Page, I'm sorry.
Great conversation, thank you. So if you have additional questions on that item, please make sure you share those. The next item is our ESS Education Staffing Agency to supplement substitute teachers. Questions on this item? Okay, seeing none. Again, and I know some questions have come through, and as additional questions do come, please come up. Please make sure you share those, and we'll share those with the full board. The item F is the informational item, the service agreement with Educational Epiphany. Are there questions on this item? I think we do have somebody from Educational Epiphany online in case there are questions.
So question to Dr. Campbell, how many literacy programs are we running? And that may not be the right phrase, but.
Right, so it's not a literacy program. What Dr. Dickey is providing is high-impact training, utilizing the resources that we have purchased. So what we recognize, we've purchased a lot of new resources, curriculum, ELA, we're looking at science, and so he's working with the team to bring those resources together to also incorporate the strategies as it relates to AVID, as it relates to SIOP, our multi-tier systems of supports, bringing it all together to have a high impact and outcomes for student achievement. So we have the resources and tools, but we don't always know exactly what we need to do with them in a rigorous fashion. And so his team will come and provide support and training for our coaches and our administrators, all the way down to the building level for our teachers.
So we have letters facilitators in the, so how do these mesh together? Letters are training, another type of training, right?
Right.
This is another type of training.
Right, of utilizing the resource. Letters training currently is using letters as a ELA resource for our classroom teachers. What Dr. Dickey, as Educational Epiphany does, and Dr. Dickey, you can hop in, is he is taking those resources that we have, pulling them together so that we are extending them out at a high level, high impact to get the academic results that we are looking for.
Who is Dr. Dickey?
Dr. Dickey, I see you you hopped online. Is there anything you would like to add?
So before he.
Or, yes, Ms. Russell.
So I guess my question is, so we just approved 2 meetings ago, the SIOP training, AVID training, we just approved a whole bunch of people to go to the training. So is this like something right off the back, or is it like we come back, we implement, and then we have this individual? Is this long-term? How do all of these things work together? Because I think that's what I'm struggling, is that we are launching these things, but we're also, I don't want to over-train people that they're not actually listening anymore because there's too much going on.
So as we have all these resources that are available, we also have to empower our coaches and give them the capacity to support the resources and push them through, and that is what he does. He looks at all the resources that we have, and it's not just to learn the resource, but it's how to utilize it in the most effective manner, because we have a variety of things that we are supporting at different tiers.
Okay, so this is more implemented at the coaches level.
Yes.
Than the individuals that are actually implementing the programs that we are.
It will also be provided, support will also be provided to teachers, but it's aligning how we utilize these resources in a standardized fashion, as opposed to we have a resource, we go through the general training, but I may utilize it a little bit differently than at this other location. But him helping us to align the resources and programs that we have to get the biggest impact and outcomes.
So is this more generic, or this individual has experience utilizing all of these programs?
Dr. Dickey has a great deal of experience, and that information was listed in Dr. Dickey. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
We're paying $780,000.
You're on mute, Dr. Dickey.
Well, before he speaks, one of the things I did when I saw this, I went online and found the information about it. And what it promotes is active engagement, not only for just one group, but for all cohorts, executive directors, principals, instructional coaches, assistant principals, teacher leaders, teachers, executive directors. And it gives us a strong level of accountability throughout our entire district if once we all come together and make sure that we're all on the same page. So I would encourage board members, even after you hear him speak, look online to read information about this program, because it's very beneficial to help us move in the right way.
I'm not understanding. We're paying $780,000, essentially $1 million to do what? Coordinate everything that we have out here
And to
loosely?
utilize the resources and coach through it too. So it's utilizing those resources and providing that continuous support and coaching and looking at the outcomes, our academic outcomes for students. And Dr. Fernandez, if you want to.
I'm not understanding why we have acquired all these things I'll just call them literacy, whatever programs. And we're now saying we don't know how to coordinate them?
We're trying
Good
to,
evening, Madam Jay.
oh, sorry, Dr. Dickey.
Good evening, Board President Lopez, board members, Superintendent Stubblefield, community members at large, and educators. The last board member, forgive me, I cannot see your name from your nameplate, but you asked a series of really important questions. So Educational Epiphany has a 15-year history of supporting individual schools, clusters of schools, entire school districts, and state departments of education in rectifying long-standing student achievement gaps, long-standing gaps between and among student groups. For a bit of context, before I go more specific in response to your question, Madam Board Member, before the pandemic, 65% of all children in our nation were reading below the grade level expectation. But school systems had piles of stuff, piles of resources, but it did not impact, even with all the race to the top, all those dollars, did not impact or move that number in the aggregate. So pre-pandemic, 65% of all the nation's children were reading below the grade level expectation. Before the pandemic, 75% of all children of minority descent were reading below the grade level expectation. And students grappling with a disability were performing at 95% below the state expectation. Every single school, cluster of schools, or district with which we've had an opportunity to work, they have either broken a district record for gains in reading and in mathematics without like a programized over-implementation approach to teaching and learning, or they have broken a state record. And so what we help districts to do very successfully, north, south, east, and west, we have about 1,500 district and school partnerships across the country. Of course, you know, there are 50 million school-age children in this country being educated in 100,000 school districts, and we're supporting around the number of 1,500 or so schools and school districts in the country. Every one of them break a record. And so I had the privilege and honor of listening to your conversation tonight, and we're going to help teachers too, and school leaders and coaches and assistant principals and principal leaders is to get on the same page with your resources. Because according to a great deal of empirical research, new resources empirical research typically don't get you the gain you need. So what I'm going to help you to get is a 10, 20, 30% gain in student achievement in one school year. And so it is not snake oil. It is a concerted approach to help folks to understand a small number of instructional practices, irrespective of your curricular resources, irrespective of your curricula, integrating a small number, and it's not a program because you don't need another program. So integrating a small number of instructional practices in our collective and calibrated service to children. And I'll briefly tell you about those 4 instructional practices. So we'll take everything you have as resources, all of the philosophies of public education, all of the resources you have available, and help folks to see how to transform student achievement through a small number of levers. When we speak only to principals and do not speak to principal supervisors and do not speak to coaches and do not speak directly to teachers in a finite way, what we have is the left hand will undo the work of the right hand. And if you are interested, and I know you are, interested in the vast majority of your children reaching reading proficiency, we help you to integrate literacy practices into your pre-K2 classrooms, which is consistent with your letters training. So these practices are consistent with your letters training. But what about kids who are sitting in 6th grade and they're reading multiple grade levels below the grade level expectation? How do we make sure that they are recipients of a schooling experience that's worthy of consumption? What about your children who are sitting in 9th grade and 12th grade who are reading multiple grade levels below the grade level expectation? So we'll help folks to integrate a small number of literacy practices that transcend grade levels and content areas. Number 1 being across this nation, teachers, and including in Kansas City, Kansas, teachers are being asked to write the state standard on the board. But writing the state standard on the board has never helped a single child. And so what's better than writing a state standard on the board? It's a learning target that's one part content from your curricular resources, from your State Department of Education expectations, from the nuances of the expectations that are resident in your state standards. So a performance-based objective that's one part content and one part higher order thinking, consistent with how we know kids are going to be assessed later. So a solid objective, it can't be taught in a day. And sometimes teachers are frustrated because they're being asked to change their objective on a daily basis. An objective that's changing on a daily basis is nothing more than an activity. It's not consistent enough with the rigor of the expectations that are resident in your state standards and in your end of grade and end of course assessments. Secondly, folks have been talking about for 100 years about ensuring that children have access to a growing vocabulary, but still our children have shallow vocabularies. Their lexicon is shallow. And so we will help everyone in your organization calibrate on what it means to analyze a text, what it means to determine the main idea, what it means to determine the central idea of a text. Why does it take 10 years for children to pass an end of grade or end of course assessment with questions about central idea and central ideas in your standards for 10 years? It is because children go from one grade to the next, and they're being exposed to, not intentionally by teachers, but they've been exposed to, in the absence of calibration, 10 different definitions of what central idea means, and we wonder why children can't perform at the grade level expectation. And then thirdly, we'll help everyone understand the gradual release of responsibility and bring back simplicity to planning lessons, because public education has weaponized lesson plans against teachers. And so if teachers are ready for the gradual release of response process, then they'll be able to plan and deliver instruction without 10 cooks in their instructional kitchen. And right now, teachers don't know who to listen to because there's 10 approaches, there's old PD, there's new PD, there's old resources, there's new resources, and they don't know which master to follow. And you can't serve two masters. You're going to cleave to one or despise the other one. And so folks are confused. And if you want children to read at the grade level expectation or above, then there has to be some calibration of what we expect. And so, Board Member, you were right, I believe, Board Member Drew, there's accountability built into this as well. Because if administrators don't know what to look for when they visit classrooms, they'll give teachers feedback inconsistent with what teachers need to hear from administrators in support of the improvements in the quality of their instruction. And so fourthly, we'll help teachers and school administrators get on the same page and what it means to support children's writing ability, because reading is breathing in. But if you can't read on the grade level, at the grade level expectation, you can't breathe out, which is to write and speak consistent with the grade level expectations and the nuances and the standards. And then finally, we'll help everyone in your organization to integrate without it feeling like a checklist of another set of things to do, because teachers don't need another checklist of things to do. They need consistency and expectation from the folks who are giving them feedback. So we'll help everyone in your organization to understand the transformational power of integrating manipulatives into a math classroom. So math instruction in your district will be consistent with the recommendations for the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics, which says that if you want kids to get to abstract mathematical understanding, you got to go through concrete and representational. I know that's a mouthful, but in a very short period of time, we will introduce a single instructional practice to every tier of your organization, because we understand that train the trainer doesn't work. And if you're at least 40 and you play that game pass the can, when you pass that message from one person to the next, down that train of folks with the can, that message is garbled up and in some ways very inconsistent with the initial message. And teachers are being confused by the people who are supposed to be supporting them.
Thank you, Dr. Dickey.
Welcome.
Are there additional questions or additional information?
Sure. What other districts have you worked with, Dr. Dickey? This is Dr.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. One I would bring to your one I would bring to your attention, Memphis, Tennessee. And they have had, unfortunately, a history of scoring below the grade level expectation. But let me say this, ma'am. Assessments are just one way to judge educator effectiveness. But it's the one that the nation has decided to use. How do children perform on end of grade and end of course norm reference and criterion reference assessments? And so when I met Memphis, they allowed me to work with a small number of schools. I believe it was 8 or 9 or 10. And each of those schools, after 1 year, went from F to A. And since then, they gave us the opportunity to work with all 180 of their schools, and they were in the bottom 5% for 20 years in the state of Tennessee, bottom 5%, which means they were eligible for state takeover. So after 1 year of solid multi-tiered professional learning implemented by teachers without overwhelming them, without them feeling like here comes another initiative, okay? They demonstrated the most significant gains in their state. They went from F to A of 180 schools, F to A in one school year, this past school year, during a pandemic.
Well, thank you. Maybe you'll get a chance to communicate with Dr. Campbell a number of your other successes. So thank you. Look forward to hearing from him.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, board member. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dickey, for hanging in there with us. I know it's getting a little late in the evening, so thank you for hanging in there with us to give us the information. Additional thoughts or questions? Okay. We will continue with our agenda.
Mr. Lopez, before you move, I do want to be clear, because this is where we have not been clear. This initial cost is coming out of ESSER dollars under the, Dr. Campbell or Ms. Geiser, please tell me, I think it's under the staff professional development general line or maybe a specific line. But to the earlier conversation, I don't want to rehash it. This is where we haven't been clear, and we'll do a better job moving forward, that when these things, what we are asking for ESSER dollars. That was not, or on the original list that you approved when it originally went to the state, like early fall last year.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? With as big as a shift as that was just explained to us, I'm curious about how the board will stay involved or up to speed, because it sounds like things move really fast and there's a lot of interaction with, I want to make sure I say the company name correctly. So how will the board be updated? Because right now we get reports. And how will the board stay up to date as far as what's happening if this is approved?
It will be included in the quarterly academic report. That's where that information should naturally fall, because that's when we will be looking at all of different measurements that we report out on quarterly.
And Dr. Stubblefield, we have worked into our plan an opportunity to report to you on a monthly basis. So if members of your board have questions as the quarter proceeds, you have access to ongoing a monthly report so that you can keep them apprised of the movement that we're making. And as it comes to the impact on student achievement through your universal screeners, through your teacher-generated assessments, through your predictive benchmark assessments, and ultimately through your end of grade and end of course criterion reference and norm reference assessments, you will see growth.
Okay.
There's not a single school district with which we have worked that we have not seen unparalleled gains. There's not one.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I was just thinking about how fast it sounds like things move, and it sounds like there's constantly updates that will take place. So quarterly doesn't seem like it would be enough, just with the dollars that we're putting behind it and the I don't know, the trust in the whole process. So I just wanted to make sure of how things would come back to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just add the only other thing I just think, and it doesn't need for conversation, but in terms of just teacher overload, right? I think that is something we do witness. I hear you, Dr. Dickey, and what you're saying. I do think it is a reality, though, that our staff do feel overloaded with programs or things that we're asking of them. So I think as we if we do enter into this agreement, I think just being sensitive of all of the things that we are currently asking of our teachers, of our paras, of our educators, of our principals, is the gamut, and just being sensitive to that, because I think that's important. And as we continue to, we talk about the culture and morale, and things that we can do to retain staff. I think it sounds like this is something that's definitely going to help us to do that, but I also want to be sensitive and so of that as well. So, but thank you, Dr. Duke.
One of the things we will do, Board President Lopez, is to help your schools and central office personnel to identify some of the things that may be on teachers and school administrators' plates that we can take off that aren't connected to improvements in student outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Dickey. Well, again, thanks for hanging in there with us and for sharing a lot of information as you did tonight. Appreciate that.
Pleasure of mine. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our agenda. Next are Agenda item number 8, tonight, Board, we have for second read the proposed changes to the Purchasing Procedures Manual and the Purchase Card Manual. Entertain a motion to accept for a second read those changes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there questions or further discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Wanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
On the Brownlee page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is entertain a motion to accept for second read the proposed changes to the policies GANA and policy CEF. Can we take them both at the same time, Mr. Goheen? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept for second read changes to those two policies.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Yes, Ms. Russell.
So I just want to be clear, it's not technically related to these, but we had the conversation last meeting with regard to these policies. When are we planning to have the conversation around things that are under the 20,000 threshold? I don't feel like I walked away last meeting with clarity around when this board would have that conversation, but I would like for us to not continue to keep having the conversation, but to have something in place before the next school year starts. And so I just wanted to bring it up now because I don't feel like I got the clarity I needed. And I thought that was kind of the part of the work of this policy, but I understand that piece, why it's not related, but I want to make sure I have a definite understanding of when we're going to have that conversation.
I can answer that. I look forward to the Finance Committee having multiple conversations dealing with the criteria for those purchases other than those that are bidded out. That would include anything below 20, anything. And so
I guess without breaking COMA rules, because I'm not on the Finance Committee,
but you can attend as a,
but when do I get to give what I'm, when do I get the
you
opportunity?
meet every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you can definitely have a conversation with Dr. Nguyen about, hey, these are, and I don't want to overstep Mr. Goheen, he's giving me a look.
I think me and Dr. Nguyen are, based on my understanding, we're on the similar page, but I don't just want Finance Committee to just be having and with respect, I know that you're not wasting any time over there, but I
Well,
want to make sure it happens before the school year starts, so when money does
We open it up for people to put things on the agenda and welcome it. So,
I guess I also was told in order for me to participate, someone would not have to be present.
Yeah, I mean, a couple different things. There can't be more than 3 people on a committee or it becomes a meeting of the board. And so that's one of the issues. So you've got people appointed to the committee. That does not prevent any board member from attending a committee meeting just as any other member of the public. You just can't have input or a vote on it like you can if you're a member of the committee. So if the committee's meeting on something, the committee controls what's happening during that meeting. That doesn't mean you can't attend. That doesn't mean you can't offer up suggestions. It just can't be a participating member in terms of what,
you
setting
can't be a
the
participating
agenda.
meeting, members of voting?
Right,
Okay, so just mean you can't vote.
pretty much.
But you can
But
participate
they-
in conversation.
Right.
So
And
that
so
answers
then,
that question.
your other issue is if you're wanting something set or a report coming from a committee by the board, or you're wanting to set something on the agenda, then that's the board's decision. So if the board wants to say, hey, we want to see these policies looked at by Finance Committee or whatever other committee, and we'd like a report, that's for the board to decide, subject to the committee's availability to meet and do those things. So, but that's not a one-person decision, that's a board decision. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. The committee has established, Finance Committee is established every 2 weeks. And the agenda is open, has always been open to submit items. So it's pretty open.
So for clarity, Mr. Goheen, then I just want to make sure we all, so a fourth member or a fifth or all seven of us technically could join the Finance Committee meeting, have a conversation as part of the meeting. I'm just using it as an example. The Finance Committee, join, have a conversation, give our input, thoughts, and we're still okay as long as only the 3 appointed members of any given committee are the voting members.
Correct.
Okay.
And my only caution with that is don't turn your comments into a vote by act. I mean, you guys know what I mean. You guys could turn a discussion into this is how I'm going to vote. I mean, that's not the way it works, because then you are participating as a member.
No, I just wanted, for clarity, like, we can have other members at any given committee.
Just like any other member of the public.
I appreciate that clarity.
That's
Always been open.
Depending on how each committee is run, if you allow public comment, then a board member can publicly comment at a meeting just like any other member of the public. So if you shut the meeting down to where it's just the committee members that are having the discussion, then no, you would not be able to have that comment. Does that make sense? This board accepts public comment. Other than the public comment that comes forward, you guys receive reports, you receive information. So a member of the public who attends does not automatically have the right to have comments made at a board meeting. The same thing holds true for a committee. You don't automatically have a right as a member of the public who's not a member of the committee to make comments at the meeting. But if the board chair or the committee chair opens it up for public comment or allows that, then you would. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Additional questions? There's a motion and a second to accept the second read. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Andy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. This time we are reached the executive session section of our agenda. Dr. Stubblefield, we can dismiss all staff that are not participating.
Yes, all staff, the only person who will be in there is Dr. Campbell.
Okay, thank you, staff, for joining us tonight. Would entertain a motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect privacy interests of parties involved under coma, going in at 8:04 for 5 minutes.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Ms. Smith, roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. are. You let me know when you're ready.
Are we ready? Okay, we're ready.
Okay. Sorry. Can I get a motion to return to open session, please? Moved by Ms. Humphries, seconded by Ms. Clark. Any questions? Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Rhonda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect privacy interests of all parties involved. Going in at 8:11 for 3 minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? And to include Dr. Campbell and Dr. Stubblefield. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Did you say 8:11 for 30 minutes?
For 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
3 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yolanda Clark,
Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Yes.
Janie Humphries, Randy Lopez,
Yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you. You're ready?
Yes.
Okay. Motion to return to open session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ms. Russell. Ms. Smith, Roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries, Randy Lopez,
Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
and Dr. Wynn.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect privacy interests of all parties involved under coma and to include Dr. Campbell. I'm going in at 8:16 for 2 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Andy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
and Dr. Wynn.
Thank you. Motion to return to open session, please.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Smith, roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. We're back in open session. Thank you, board, for hanging in there with us. Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for joining us at the dais tonight. Dr. Stubblefield, safe travels back to Kansas City. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
On the 16th, are we here?
No, it's
special-
Zoom.
Oh, it's Zoom?
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
And the fentanyl thing is at 5?
6 o'clock on the 16th, yes. Uh-huh.
We got Finance Committee on the 16th, too.
We do, yeah.
all righty.
We're done at 5:30, yeah. It's gonna be a long night.
We always stay now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was still on.